As a ruby, your essence will always be timeless. But if you started to understand that even though your essence is timeless as a ruby, you can very well waste your time being on the necks or being passed around to people that don't understand your value, and then they make it cheapened. A ruby could be worth millions of dollars, but if you see it on a person that seems impoverished, you would automatically think it's a counterfeit. So stop wasting your time around the necks of counterfeit people that causes you to lose your essence and your allure, because you don't have no time to waste. As a woman, you have to understand prime. You hear me? The word P. When you start to understand that you don't have any time to waste, you will not go ahead and give yourself away to the first bidder. You won't sit in heartbreak and pain for longer than you need to. You start to make very sensible, grown decisions as a ruby very quickly, because you know that you don't have time to waste. One of the allure of the women in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s was their beauty, and they understood that they were a currency in that time, and once they were in demand, that they had to capitalize on it. Although they would have cultivated the allure to become timeless icons like our favorite Miss Elizabeth Taylor and the Marilyn Monroes, they understood that the legacy still was built in the prime. So if you decide to allow somebody that doesn't look like a valuable person to be around you, to wear you, and to think that they can afford you, and you waste your time to get into the hands of persons that truly value you, then you are doing yourself a disservice in your prime. See, there are different primes that a woman goes through. And although many persons don't like to talk about the clock, I'm going to give you a reality. I want to give you a reality check for the next time you decide to have kids for a man that didn't decide to marry you, to go sliding down a man's wall because he decided to entertain another woman. I'm going to give you the reality of what happens when you decide to waste your time on trivial things, when you decide to sit down in bed whilst he is out there looking for his next victim. You keep telling yourself, I need to recuperate, I need to get back up, I can't get back on my feet. Let me tell you something, the key to get over anything is take your problems to the feet of Christ. And when you don't take them to the feet of Christ, you ruby, you're going to get back up 10 times better. But see, the reason is many of you do not take your problems, rubies, to Christ, because it's going to require you to walk different after you done left. Because you want to still do the same nonsense and waste your time. And that is why you don't want to carry the problem before Christ and you decide to get over it yourself, which causes you to waste time. See, the enemy, the biggest enemy against the ruby is when he can waste your time. Don't let nobody waste your prime. You have a physical prime, an emotional prime, a social prime, and even a reproductive prime. This is the reality of life. This is the reality of life. And if you keep judging yourself on the timeline clock of a man that is different from yours, you're going to lose in this life. You're definitely going to lose in this life. Because see, with men, as they get older, their value heightens because they become more successful, they get more money, they grow their net worth. So it doesn't really matter how they look in the world, because some of the most appalling looking men are some of the richest men, but they yet still cop females' attention. However, for you, if you realize that you have a clock and you have time, and you realize the years of your prime, you will stop wasting your times with the jacks and the clowns, and you will get into the hands of people that value you. So as you age gracefully, they nurture the allure and the essence of you. You know how many women, we look at them with an awe. We look at them with an awe because they have aged gracefully. And we admire them because in their prime, they were not used up. In your prime, you look for persons to nurture you into your wisdom years, your older years. Because if you use up your prime incorrectly, you'll be bitter in those years. Your physical prime is going to be from your 20s into your early 30s. Sadly, because we are not emotionally mature in our 20s, we kind of waste those first few years of our 20s because we want to get our feet wet and understand what is going on. But your physical prime, ruby, is in your 20s and your 30s. Your fertility by the clock of nature is from 22 to 30. That's when your fertility is at its highest. Your muscle strength, your skin elasticity, your overall health tends to be at their best, and yet you are stuffing your mouth with another deep fried Twinkie. This is the time you're supposed to be getting in shape. From your 20s to your early 30s is the time you're going to have the most energy to be at your best self. If you look at the icons in the years back, about 70, 30, 40, 50 years ago, look how beautiful they were in their 20s, and yet you are fighting the overweight pandemic in your 20s. You are looking 20 years older than what you are supposed to be, Ruby, because you're wasting your time in your 20s. This is a time for you to get on track and start making some real serious decisions because you have a physical prime. Does this decrease your value as a woman? Absolutely not. But can it make it harder to age gracefully? Absolutely it can. Your energy levels and metabolism is generally higher in your 20s and early 30s. However, you allow persons that don't see your value as a Ruby to take away your energy. You're losing sleep in your 20s because you want to be at every rave party every weekend. And I'm not saying that you can't have some enjoyment, but you want to do it every weekend. You are not getting any rest. Even God rests on the seventh day. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, yet you act like you were placed on the clearance rack at a dollar store. This is how you act. This is your behavior because you truly don't understand your prime. If you understood your prime, you would walk away from that man a bit quicker. Now, your emotional and your mental prime, it usually comes in your 30s and from your 30s to your 50s. Like I said, you're still learning. You were a child, you thought as a child, but when you became older and you became a man or woman, you put away childish things, right? Once a man, twice a child. So your emotional prime literally comes like in your 30s to your 50s. This is where you start to get more confidence, you are very self-aware, and you actually start to have EQ, emotional intelligence. It wasn't until after 25 I started to make better emotional decisions. And it wasn't until about 27, 28 I was fully standing on those decisions. By this stage, you will tend to have better understanding of who people are and what they want. And I'm going to do a video about understanding how not to lose your value because everybody that comes to you wants something and you need to determine exactly what it is that they want. And will it cost you your energy? Will it cost you your time? Will it cost you your money? In your prime, emotional, mental prime years, you move differently. You set better boundaries, you choose healthier relationships, and you operate from a place of security rather than seeking validation. But what happens if you don't understand your physical prime, you will seek validation in your emotional prime years. Do you see how this is a domino effect if you don't understand how to capitalize on every defining decade in your life as a Ruby? Do you see that? When you are supposed to be in your emotional prime, now you finally understand that I am a gem and I am a prize in my 20s. It's going to be very easy for you to get into that mindset that you don't deserve to be here. And you don't deserve to be here because I learned at this age that this type of person will not cost me any type of happiness and only heartache and pain. But because you are still playing with the same men that wasted your first defining decade, you play with the men that already done waste your 20s, you bring the same foolishness into your 30s. That does not make any sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Then there's another prime that you go through as a woman, and this is your career and financial prime. This is where you start to put away childish thinking, and this is where you start to understand fully security. See, and this is where if you would understand your prime years, physical prime years, and your emotional and mental prime years, you won't be comparing yourself to anybody in your 20s. Your 30s will start to get you footing and realize the person that you are. But when you reach in your career and financial prime, which is also in your 30s and 50s, is when the skills that you were supposed to acquire over your 20s, rather than sliding down walls, these are the things that help you step into a future that is fruitful. If you wasn't making kids with the men that you wasn't supposed to in your 20s, you will have more emotional clarity in your 30s to pick a partner and marry them. And then you can gracefully enjoy your career because now you have actually put yourself in a position of security and stability, whether you are a career or entrepreneur woman. But when you start messing up very early on, because life is like a mist, the Bible tells you that it is like a vapor. Yet you are still sitting down, allowing persons to take away your time. No. This is when many women in their 30s to their 50s reach leadership positions. This is where you start the businesses. This is where you find financial stability. This is where you stop buying things because you like it. This is where you start to budget. This is where you start to plan 5, 10, 20 years from now. This is where you start to pick partners that actually have resources. You stop playing with the ones that can only carry you to bars to drinks and hookahs to smoke, and you start making grown woman decisions. See, it is imperative for you to understand every decade in your life. And if you missed out in understanding your physical prime, it would be a very shame if you don't understand your emotional and your career and your financial prime. You would stop wasting your time with these men if you understood that at this particular stage in life is where elevation is literally launched and propelled. Because you understood value, you understood your privilege, you understood boundaries, and now you make wise decisions. Financial independence in your 30s to your 50s is when you truly start to make confident decisions, and it peaks in this time. This is the time in your 30s to your 40s, you start to make really sound decisions. Like, it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. Like, we don't have to question why you did something, because you put away that decade of your life where you really didn't know much. And that's why for the first half of your 20s, like that first 5 years in your 20s, the quicker the better you catch on and understand. But when you start to when you don't waste that first 5 years, do whatever you want to do. Go to the club, go to the party, paint your nails green, your hair pink, do whatever it is you want to do. But when you are coming down to like 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, to wean away from the things that were childish that would have been in your teenage years. You're not 19 anymore. You're not 18 anymore. So some of that thinking is still in your early 20s because you now have to learn how to be an adult. But don't let it drag on forever. Now, most women, relationship and social prime also comes in their, I would say, their 30s to 40s. So socially and romantically, you can hit this prime around 30 or 40, where you are very more discerning about relationships. So for me, I'm very discerning now. I'm discerning in my 20s. I'm not even discerning. I haven't even reached the age of discerning, but I can tell you something. I've already did it the wrong way, and I've did it the right way. And I can always tell you, when you do it the right way, it's going to save you a lot of time. High value men are often drawn to women that are self-assured, emotionally mature, and selective. This is where men pick from. Don't mind them saying that, oh, I'm going to marry somebody that's 21 or 22. They definitely will, depending on what they're marrying them for. But most men, when they are looking for a partner that they don't have to grow up, that they don't have to help understand their worth because they understand it, that they don't have to help them put boundaries in place because they have already seen those boundaries, that's where they start picking from. They start picking from there. They start picking right from there. Absolutely. This is where the high value men start picking from. And if you have this mindset, even though you are younger or older, you will be chosen. Just take your time, sweetheart. It's going to happen, Ruby. Now, you're spiritual whenever God has it to be. But you can delay it. You can delay your purposeful prime if your mind's still in Egypt. If your mind's still in your teenage years, in the early 20 years, you can delay this time. This time, which is your spiritual and purposeful prime, this time is only determined when you decided to understand your physical prime, your emotional prime, your financial prime, your business and career prime, your relationships and social prime. The purposeful and spiritual prime can only align when you understood every other prime. If the time ain't right, God ain't gonna act for you. The quicker you understand those pivotal moments in your life, the quicker you walk into the promised land. Spiritually, a woman's prime can literally be at any age, the quicker that she learns her lessons. This is when you start to learn those lessons, you automatically start to align and make decisions that align with the purpose and the spiritual walk. That's what happens. This is when you understand, when you decide to start praying more and cultivate a stronger prayer life and lean into your calling and letting God direct your steps, you often will experience not only peace, but understanding why you went through the refining in those other times. But God will never let you into the promised land as a ruby if you don't understand other steps. You will never enter into the promised land. Never. You will never enter into the promised land. Now, a woman's physical prime may peak in her 20s and 30s, but her emotional and financial and spiritual prime often comes from anywhere between 30 to 50. That's when wisdom and confidence and experience align. That's your most important years. If you have messed up in your 20s, Ruby, it's time to get it together in your 30s. And if you was messed up in your 30s, you ain't got no more time to play childish games. You need to get it together in your 40s. Because when you reach 50, you know how sad it is that you can look somebody in the face and say, yeah, I still have not entered my spiritual and purposeful prime because I still didn't understand my emotional and physical prime and my social prime. And I'm still here with Pookie and I'm still here with Ray Ray and I didn't understand. You wasted half a century because that's what that is. 50 years is half a century. When you reach a quarter of a century, you should really start to wake up because a quarter of your dollar is gone. So now you have 75, if it's by grace God intends you to have, now left with 75 more cents after the first quarter is gone. That's why I tell you, after 25, something really clicks in your mind and you start to think much, much more clearer than you did before. True prime isn't truly about age. It's truly about your mind, self-awareness, emotional strength, and purpose. But you make your life easier if you mentally mature quick enough while you are still in your physical prime, because the Bible says, I called you because you are young and you are strong. So that means you can get more done in your physical prime when you decided to align emotional, social, and financial primes at a particular time. Life is about live. You got to start living life on easy now. You got to start really walking like a Ruby now. This ain't no time to play no games no more, Ruby. Get it together. Remove the junk from your life. Close shop to those potential counterfeit buyers. Work on getting your value back up because you've been around the necks of persons that should have never had you. And when it's time to open up shop and you do your grand opening, persons walk past the jewelry case and say, I can't afford it, so let me don't pollute it with garbage. Ruby, you better start to understand your prime.